welcome to Emily Kate Made This. I am Emily Kate and I'm coming to you from Berlin in Germany. Welcome to my knitting slash sewing slash general crafty YouTube channel. Today's episode is all works in progress. There are no finished objects. Well, technically you might count one as a finished object, but they're works in progress. And unsurprisingly, all of these items are vintage. If you've been here a while, you'll know I'm very into my vintage knitting at the moment, and I foresee it for quite some time. I do have some non-vintage knitting in my future plans. I'm also not wearing any vintage. This is a Ranunculus, I think my first one that I made. So I do wear non-vintage. And let's get started because I'm feeling a bit lost without purpose. I need to start talking about something. Right, if you were here last time, you will know I started my Bows Are News jumper. Here is said photo, and I have done quite a bit on it. I have. Oh, thank you to everybody who gave me some advice on how to make the bows, because I was very, very confused and you all came up with such wonderful ideas that were very simple. There's a fly. Why is there always a fly in my face? Very simple, and I don't know why I didn't think about them at all. But thanks to you, I have finally sewed on my bows. So I've basically done the jumper, but I haven't done the sleeves. And it's a bit of a mess. Can you see it? Yes. I'm so excited. I am desperately hoping it will fit. The body part will fit. It's just, I'm always nervous about the shoulders. I either make it too small or too big and end up fudging it and trying to get it to fit. So hopefully all is well. I blocked the body, but I just finished the neckband, so that's a little bit bobbly. But it should sit like this, and then the arm will go in here, so hopefully all is well and it will fit perfectly. It's knitted in Drops Nord, and this is a yarn that I have had in my stash for the entire time I've been knitting, but I'm not sure at what point it counts as being in my stash, because I originally had it, made something, I made my Chevron jumper, and then I ran out of yarn, so I had to buy more, and then I wanted to make the Victory jumper, but I didn't have enough of this blue, so I had to order more, and I ended up using that yarn to make this, but of course I ran out. So I had to buy more. All of this, me trying not to buy any more of this yarn and trying to use it up, has just not particularly worked. But the good news is there's absolutely none of this blue left at all. My second, or I don't know, I think I've made 3 Ranunculus tops, and this was the first one, I think. Then I made a cotton one, and I made a blue one with this blue and some mohair, and there's none of this blue left, so that's good. That's out of the stash. But I did have to buy more of this. And the weirdest thing happened with this. As I said, I've used this blue one multiple times, several balls, but this one, this new dye lot, is horrible. It's like sticky, and the blue is just coming off. I've forgotten what it's called, crocking or something like that. Basically the blue comes off on my hands and completely annihilated my needles. I used wooden higher needles on this jumper, and I've used those needles on my other jumper using the same wool, no problems. I knitted almost all of this jumper, but then when the new yarn came, it made my yarn so sticky and my needles turned blue, and I was knitting, but the stitches were just stuck on the needle, and I was using my nails to like scrape off some of this stickiness so that I could move the stitches along. Then I took my needles off, washed them. Most of the blue came out, but they're wooden, so I was rubbing it with a cloth, but it's kind of made the wood a bit splintery now. So although they're not blue, it's like unconditioned wood or something. I don't know if you can oil needles. I don't know if that would then put oil on your yarn. I don't know. It was very stressful. I thought that because of all the blue that was coming off, when I blocked it, it would change the colour, like it would leak blue everywhere. So I preliminarily blocked this, and I also took the skeins, I don't know what they're actually called, when you, like, they're not skeins and they're not balls, they're like the other shape. I basically turned the drops yarn into a skein, put it in the bath, washed it, dried it, and then re-balled it. But not really, like very little blue came out. I know that blue, naturally dyed blue like indigo and woad, tend to rub off rather than, like, I say I know and then I can't finish my sentence. Basically, it's like the blue adsorbs rather than absorbs into the wool, so it's easier to rub off. So washing it didn't really do anything because I wasn't rubbing it, I was washing it. But anyway, long story short, it did not leak. That's nice. I did get my needles clean, but they're a bit damaged, and the wool, I have yet to find out if it will destroy any more needles because I have not cast on the sleeves yet. But I'm going to do that on my Chago needles because they're metal, and I got into hardcore spring cleaning mode over the weekend, and after 2 years I finally found my 3mm needle that I lost. So I'm really delighted. I can now knit with 2 3mm needles, and not just one 3mm and one 2.75 or 3.25. I have 2 individual 3mm needles. So I can knit the sleeves for this jumper and not worry about ruining any more of my needles. So there is the first half, kind of half finished object, almost finished object, just 2 sleeves to go. I'm very excited. Pop you in your bag, in my little baggie that I made a couple of years ago. How many of those doesn't he? Now, I teased you last time on a project. I said that the scissors are out. I don't know how many of you got it, but I have mentioned this before, and I have finally done it. Teasing is over. Teasing is no more. I will show you what I have done. Many of you will not be surprised. Many of you may sigh some, oh, not another one, Emily, but it's happened. I steeked my chevron. Way back when, back in the day, last year, I decided I was going to make this chevron jumper. Yes, the chevron jumper. If you are fed up of hearing about the chevron, please feel free to skip forward. I always add chapters to my videos, but I won't talk about the pattern as much, just what I did. Basically, I made a chevron jumper and I followed the pattern without using my brain, and I just used sport weight yarn, followed the pattern, and it came out enormous. For me, it drowned me. I've showed pictures of me looking very sad and sullen with the shoulders all falling off, and everything was just huge. And I then decided, it's fine, I will just like seam in the extra fabric, it's all fine. It really was not. It was not all fine, and I never wore it and it looked terrible. So then I decided, I know, I'll make a vest. So I took off the sleeves, I made a sensational jumper. Yes, I am humble. I made us a whole entire different chevron jumper using the sleeves from this original jumper, and I love that jumper. Hopefully there's a video or a picture or something. And then I decided I would turn this into the vest. So there I was, undoing all of the arms and adding ribbing, and I made the vest, and I just thought, wow, I don't like vests. Like, I don't like this at all. It was so warm, but like it didn't go with anything. The only thing it vaguely went with was a dress, but I don't wear like a knitted vest with no arms at any point. I don't own long sleeve tops. The only one I do is stripy and blue, what was it? It's like a yellow and black, I think. Stripy top does not go under this. So I never wore it. Then I spoke to you guys about what am I going to do with it. I had grand plans. I could steek it, I could make a cardigan, I could do this, that and the other. Loads of you said make a skirt, and I was so set that February I was going to turn it into a skirt. And I got in my mind set I was going to make a skirt, and I took it out of the project bag and I looked at it and thought, I just want the jumper. All I want, and all I have ever wanted, was the original jumper that I knit this to be. I don't want a skirt. So after one entire year, I finally cut it. I will add footage. I almost made an entire video just about this, but I thought I've already done two, and I've already talked about this project extensively. I don't think anybody would want to watch it again. It's happening! I am going to steek this absolutely enormous body at last. It's only taken me like a whole entire year to get the balls to do it. My lady balls are here today, and I'm gonna cut out 2 from one side and 2 from the other. Wish me luck. There's a dead plant piece. There's some pretty interesting biasing going on, but ho hum, that's what seaming is for. I can just seam that in. So here are the 2. I've signed? What is happening? I have sewed 2 rows of stitches. So I'm going to cut along here and hope and pray that the stitching will hold it in place, and then I'm going to seam this together with this side. And the same on the other side, and then let's see what it looks like. So I unraveled the neck, took it down to the neck, unraveled the top of the body where you start the decreases for the arms, and I took it straight back to just being the body. I took out the elastic because I had elasticated the ribbing so that it could look more fitted, but it just looked too big. So that came out, and I used my sewing machine, ran 4 lines of stitching and cut out 4 panels of chevron, 2 on each side, and sewed it back up. This is what it looks like on the inside. I haven't blocked it yet. I still need to block this post steeking and doing the top part. Like, it looks pretty gross, but it's fine. I might needle felt it later after I've blocked it, or I might add ribbon, I might just do something to it. But I seamed it together using the crochet method that Pauline, thank goodness for Pauline, she told me all about this and I love it, it's great. So I think because I've only done 1 row of zigzag stitch for the steek, I didn't do any other reinforcement. Hopefully the crochet seaming of it together is like a reinforcement and it won't come undone. That would be excellent if it did not come undone. So yeah, looks like that on both sides. And the yarn, it was noodle yarn. I reknit the white part in noodly yarn. I did actually take some of it and soak it in the bath and like stretch it and let it hang, but it was still wavy. So the rest of it I just undid and re-knitted. So this part looks a mess, but all of this part is blocked. Just this part's the messy part. So it should hopefully fit now. Yay! I was humming and hawing on whether to use the white, because when I did the sleeves, when I used the sleeves and made this jumper using the sleeves, I used this green, and I think this green looks better against my complexion. But I have all of this yarn, and lots of you have said white or cream does suit me, so I'll just believe you and hope that when this is done it will look as good as I want it to. I have done one sleeve. This one's not blocked yet, but here is the sleeve. What am I doing? But hey ho, you know, this will go up here if I wasn't wearing a jumper. It's short sleeves. I like the pattern. I'm trying to follow the pattern, but not follow the pattern. All of the numbers are off and I'm just winging it as per usual. So I'm making up all the numbers. And I didn't make this as long as last time because the original is quite high, and you sew these together so it makes this little square shape. So you get a square shoulder, but if you do it too high you get quite the shoulder, and I feel really weirdly insecure about having these huge shoulders, even though the green one I made isn't that big. It's still like, it's something very different and I'm not always comfortable with it, but I don't know why, because I love how it looks, except when I go outside I just think these shoulders they're enormous. So I've made these slightly smaller, but the general shape of the square should still be there. We hope. So I'm going to block this and this after talking to you guys, and then when it's dry I will seam it in and hope and pray that it fits and that it fits me, and then I will start on the second sleeve. So I have 3 sleeves to finish because it's my birthday in March and I would like to have at least one of these, if not both of these, done for my mum's visit. And last year this was the jumper to finish for my birthday, and I did finish it, and when I met my mum at the airport she was just laughing at me because this jumper was so huge. We tried to come up with ways to fix it and we did not. So this year I would like to pick her up from the airport and it fits and it looks lovely. And my voice is going. So yeah, scissors. Scissors are great. It was definitely the final thing. After trying to fix it in different ways, I knew I either have to unravel this and reknit the entire thing, or I just cut it. But then if it doesn't work, it will never be salvageable. But the thrill at the idea of cutting it and seeing how it will work and figuring it out was much more satisfying than the idea of ripping absolutely everything out and starting again. And considering I already ripped out the sleeves, like reknit the whole jumper based around the sleeves I had made, and I've already made a blue version of this one, the idea of making it like 4th time, just no. I just want what it is, and now I'm hopefully gonna have it. I should point out, usually a vintage knitting pattern is knitted flat, but I knitted that one in the round, which is why I couldn't just like seam it in instead of just having 2 pieces of fabric and just adding in some fabric and maybe cutting out some. I had to stick it because I knitted it in the round. I don't always knit vintage patterns in the round. The blue one, I'm pretty sure I did flat. Basically, if I don't have to knit it flat, wow, my voice. I don't always knit things in the round. I don't mind knitting flat. It's just, it's physically more painful for me to purl for a long period of time than it is for me to knit. So I don't mind purling. It doesn't bother me to purl or to knit, like either one is fine. It's just, it hurts faster if I purl for too long. So it's nicer that I get a bit further on in a project knitting and it doesn't hurt. I really, really want to learn how to knit backwards. I'm sure it has a very special name, and I have watched people on YouTube do it and it looks so easy, and I think that's easy. And I go to do it and it doesn't compute. Hand to brain coordination, it's not happening. I will keep practicing because I really want to do it. I've never done a single stitch. I can't manage even one, but it looks so easy when I watch people do it. Eventually it has to click. Because the idea of just knitting backwards and knitting forwards, knitting backwards, and giving my hand a break from purling, that would be amazing. Because like I say, I don't have a problem with purling, it's just it hurts a bit more. Speaking of purling, I have my next project, which looks super, super weird on the needles, but I'm gonna show you. Ta-da! This is my Stripy Tee. I did a provisional cast on because I'm going to give my mother the joy of knitting the rib, because I'm so kind and caring like that. And I don't want to do 4 inches of ribbing on 2.25mm needles. I don't really have a problem doing it. It's just, if she wants to do it, I'm very happy for her to do it. What am I doing? So basically, this is not a pattern. It's like a merge of different patterns that I have done in the past. I wanted to knit a jumper from a monarch pattern, but I misread the pattern, and instead of doing 2 rows of white, 2 rows of pink, 2 rows of white, I did 4, and so it's thicker than I wanted it. Like the stripes are thicker. So I decided I'm going to try and make this like a T, where you knit essentially a tube, then you just do a few stitches on either side to make, like, they're not sleeves but they're kind of sleeves, and you just seam it together at the shoulders so it's like a square. It's curling up, so it's really hard to show. Here are the sleeves. There is the body, and then the ribbing will come here. It's really hard to show. It doesn't look like much, but in my mind, it looks like a lot. I'm getting a lot of messages now that I'm recording. So the idea is that it will be a nice summer, like spring tea. I'm going to put my phone on silent. There we go. The body went really fast. I was having such fun just whizzing around, and then I went flat, and my goodness, this takes so long. I generally knit all of my vintage knits with sport weight yarn. It's either 350 meters per 100 grams or 300 meters per 100 grams, depending on which yarn I'm using. So it's plumper, but it's thin enough that it takes a long time to knit, but it's worth it because it's sport weight's my favourite. Fingering, light fingering. I think this is 480 meters per 100 grams to my memory. My goodness, does it take a lot longer. It's taking me hours, and I need 7 inches. I can't even remember what that is in centimeters. I'll put it on the screen. From the bottom to the top I need 7 inches, and then I need another inch just for the neck, the shoulder neck part, and then I need to repeat it on the other side. And it takes forever. So this was in my brain, I was like, it'll be done in 2 weeks. No. It will be a little while longer. But I think for the last week I've just kind of left this aside because I've been really hardcore focusing on my other 2 jumpers. Because, you know, having 3 jumpers on your needles, and they're all on 2.75 and 3mm needles, you don't see much progress on all of them. So at least I've almost finished the body, the top half of both of the jumpers, and I've got 1 sleeve starting on the second, so you know, progress is happening. It's just this one feels a lot slower. I'm using a little progress progress keeper, just to see where I am, so that I feel like I'm getting somewhere. I was trying to do 5 rounds a day, and now I'm trying to do 10 rows because it's flat now. But I was managing about 8 rows, but now I haven't touched this for about 5 days, so we'll get back to that. That is progress on this one. This is using the woolly knit cones. I have not made any more progress on my mittens. I tried. I tried to... I'll just show you what I'm talking about. I tried to make progress on this one, and I talked to you about it, and I told you I had got about this far on the second one. It hasn't been touched. I haven't looked at it, just completely abandoned. I will get back to it. I'm just currently focused on the jumpers and have no desire, and I don't want it to be an obligation. I want to enjoy knitting this. So it's currently left aside, but I will come back to it. Speaking of mittens, if you watch my last episode, you will know I made a ridiculous mitten. The fattest mitten known to man. And many of you were speechless. I love how you wrote a comment just to say how speechless you were about this monstrosity of a mitten. And then one of you gave me this amazing idea and said, why don't you just make it like a cactus? It looks like a cactus. Just call it a finished object and be done. And I found that really funny, and I grabbed a plant pot and put it in, and put it next to my cactus plants on the windowsill, and my husband didn't even notice that it wasn't real. I went over and laughed and showed him, and it blended in so well that it's now just become part of the decor. Like I rearranged my bathroom. That is now like center piece of art in my bathroom, and I'm not sorry about it. I am really happy. As soon as I realised I didn't have to do the second one, such sweet relief just flowed over me, and I'm so happy I don't need to knit the second one, because it took a year for me to get the motivation to get that far. And then I just looked at it and thought, I can't go out in these. I wouldn't be able to do anything with them because they're too fat. You can't move your hand, like nothing, just no. So in the future, if I decide to do any more Thrummed Mittens, I will use a different yarn, because I think the Let Lopi was just too thick. I'll use smaller needles and less of the Thrum material, and then maybe we'll have success. But basically that's off the cards now. I'm not thinking about knitting a second one anytime soon. I'm still struggling on knitting the second one for this one. So that's technically a finished object. Hopefully I've added a marvellous photo. I have not made any more progress on my cardigan, the Forest Berry cardigan. I am still, you know when, this is very similar to this Chevron situation. I made so many decisions based on like ignoring what my inner soul is saying what you want, but trying to convince myself that I want to do it differently, like really trying to convince myself. And I'm just stuck on whether or not I really want to knit it like the pattern or if I want to knit it differently. And so because I'm stuck on that, it's currently in hibernation until I finish these 2 jumpers. Then I will think much longer and harder about it. I'll at least do the body. The body won't change if I decide to do the sleeves differently or not. So that's fine. I'm really distracted because there is a neighbour down there. Basically, I will come back. I will update you more on the Forest Berry jacket when I have done something. But right now, my attentions are here. And because it's my birthday, I have this like goal that I want it done by the time my mum's here. So I've got 2 jumpers to finish. Then when she's here, we're going to cast on our slippers because I purchased some yarn to make these slippers. And so I know I've got at least, my plans are more than my abilities. I have 2 projects that I desperately want to cast on now, but I can't because I have to finish these jumpers. The main reason is I want them. They're very close to being done, but also I need the needles from these projects, so I also can't, I don't have enough cables or needles to cast on all the things, but they will be done one at a time. But I really, really, really want to cast on my flower jumper. That one is like on my brain at all moments of the day. I want to cast this on. So that one I think is going to be cast on pretty soon after one of these are done. I did really want to finish, optimistic, wanted to start and finish the Selbu cardigan by Skein because I'm going to Sweden. Going to Sweden in April. Again, I went last year. It's now my excuse. My husband's birthday is in April. We need to go somewhere. Oh no, where do we go? Sweden! So we're going back to Stockholm, and I had these nice dreams of having this Selvu cardigan and going on the boat and just looking sensational in my knits. But I don't think I'm going to manage that because it's an all over colourwork jumper, cardigan, jacket, and I have a lot of stuff already on my needles, so I don't know. But those 2 projects are just like sitting on my shoulders, rabbiting into my ears like I'm mad. I want to knit them now. What are you guys knitting on? I really, really enjoy hearing what you're knitting. I had some of you message me about some of your vintage knits that you're making, and it is so exciting. I had a thought that maybe we could do some kind of knit along together. It wouldn't be like a big knit along with prizes or anything because honestly I'm not financially in a situation that I can do that, but I think it would be really fun to have a place where we can all see each other's knits. And a lot of you mentioned that you love the fact that we talk about vintage knitting here and that you love vintage knitting, but you don't necessarily have, like on Ravelry, if you put a project up, that doesn't mean that anybody else can see it. Whereas if we had a tag, like a hashtag, we could all have a look on Instagram at each other's projects. So I was thinking of calling it, I was thinking of calling it Vintage MAL 2024. So basically Vintage Make Along 2024, because it can include vintage knitting, vintage sewing, vintage crochet, just whatever vintage loveliness you want to make. There's a place for us to all see it. I've never done anything like that. I don't know if it'll work, if it'll just be me adding this hashtag to all my things, but nonetheless, it could be fun. So if you have any vintage knits, please add them. Yeah, I thought it could be a nice, fun thing to do, to see everybody's knitting. I've seen so many comments about you talking about the colours you're using and the patterns, and I want to see them. I want to see your creations. And you can't add photos to YouTube comments. This is disheartening. I want to see what you're making. So if you have made anything recently in this year, or you're making something, I think whips. There's no like hardcore rules, just basically, let's say vintage counts as 1920s to 1960s. Shall we say that as a rule? And of course whips and finished objects, add them so we can all see what you are up to. That would be marvellous. Okay, I will wrap this up now because I am done rambling. Hopefully this editing process will go better than I am imagining, and this video will be cohesive. Hopefully I will see you before my mum's visit, but otherwise I will see you after I have aged by another year, and I will see you then. Thank you for watching.